Okay, the first thing I like to do is grease these metal gears because I never want oil on any gear. And if I oil first, I may get some oil on the gear, and then later when I try to put grease on the gear, it just will not adhere, it won't stick because of the oil. So over the time I've switched from putting a light coat of oil everything and then grease to greasing the gears and then doing the oil. And the grease that I use is called Tri-Flow clear synthetic grease. See if I can get so the light's not shining right on that. And it has PTFE. I can't think of what that PTFE is. It's like what coats cooking pans. You know, the skillet coating, non-stick stuff. Anyway, this has PTFE in it, and it's a clear synthetic grease, so that's what I use. You can use Singer motor lube if you want, or Singer lubricant, or other greases, but the more pure the better, and don't use anything with lithium. Don't use like axle grease and stuff like that. Use a grease that's formulated for a sewing machine is better. And the way that I apply that, I don't use a syringe or anything like that. I just bought an inexpensive set of synthetic paintbrushes. And this one I actually trimmed off a little bit, but it's fairly stiff. I think it's probably nylon. More like for an oil paint than watercolor. And I just put a small amount of the grease onto the brush, and then I'm going to brush it directly onto the teeth of the gears. And as I've said before, any grease that's not on the teeth is not going to do anything except attract dust and dirt. So I usually do it in 3 or 4 sections. I rotate the hand wheel, and I'll put a little bit more. And when I'm all finished restoring the machine, I might go back with the grease and do this again. And if I accidentally brush it onto the shaft or something like that, I'll just wipe it off with a Q-tip or a rag. So you might want to keep some of those handy. And there's a gear down in here that's on the upright shaft, and this grease that you're putting here on this gear, it will transfer down to that other gear. You know, so you'll end up getting those 2 gears. If you can get down in there and see the other gear and you want to put some grease directly on there, that's good. The point I want to make is that most people, most machines that I see that have been serviced just have way too much grease on there. It just goes flying off everywhere, and it's a waste of your money to put that much on, and it's just a big collection point for getting all over the inside of the machine, you know. So I wouldn't bother with an excess amount. And under normal conditions, if you did this once a year, you'd probably be good. If you use your machine a lot, you could do it a couple times a year with the grease, you know. So I think I've got plenty of grease there for the first greasing, and spread it around. Now down, let me try and zoom a little bit. You can just see the edge of the worm gear right there. It's on the horizontal shaft, and it mates up with a gear on the pattern selector or camshaft. So I want to get some grease on the worm gear, and it will transfer to the camstack gear. And it's all clean. I can see it's all nice and clean. There's no old grease or dirt or anything on it. So make sure this won't fall over. So I'm going to get some grease on there, and I want to go in and try and stick it to the left and then just brush it to the right across the worm gear, so a little bit of that grease kind of gets in each groove of the gear. And then I'll turn it some more. I can see it's getting distributed good. So let me put one more, I think. Oops, dang, I got some on the back of my camera. Shoot. Darn it. Okay, I'll have to remember to wipe that off before I grab it. So I use a little bit bigger glob on this worm gear because it's kind of hard to get to, and it's a long gear. So I try and do like a side of the gear and then turn the gear about 180 degrees and do the other side. And then through normal rotary movement, it's going to get spread around here. Okay? And I can see that I've got some onto this shaft, so I'm just going to wipe it off before it gets tossed all over the place. The other nice thing with this Tri-Flow synthetic grease is it seems to stick to the metal much better than other greases. And I originally found out about this because I saw it being used at a bicycle repair shop here in my town, a very popular up by the university. And I talked to them about it and then researched it, and I said, wow, this looks great. So that's how I heard about it. And I did ride a bicycle for a number of years, and I did degrease my chain with the crud cutter and everything, and then put this grease on there, and it did last a long time. So anyway, just to show you to wipe up any excess. Now that's the 3 gears up on the top. Okay, and you just saw me put gear. Whoop, back up. You saw me put the grease on this gear, which will transfer to the gear below it, and you saw me put grease on the worm gear. So on the bottom of the machine, there's a set of gears on the right side and a set of gears under the hook, and you would want to do the same thing. And usually you can just put the grease on one of the gears, whatever's easiest for you to get to, and it will transfer to the other gear. If you can get some grease on both gears, that's fine, but don't use too much grease. And if you like me and I got a little bit on the shaft over here, wipe off the excess. Another place that once you turn the gears a lot will get is right between the tip of the gear tooth and the shaft, because the turning the gears forces the grease down towards the point of that gear, towards the shaft. So that's where your excess will show up there. So I'm going to turn this a little more because I see a little bit of rust right here. So yeah, I noticed when I was turning things, I see a little bit of rust up here on the edge of the pattern selector. And I know it's not grease or dirt, it's a little bit of flash rust. So I want to get that off, right? So let me back out here again. So this is that product I was telling you, Crud Cutter, the must. Whoa, the must. Oops, the must for rust. And it's an 8-ounce bottle. I think it was like $7 or something. So let's see if I can get back in there now. I've got this turn where I can see that rust right in here. So I'm just going to put my Q-tip in the end of the bottle there and squeeze down a little bit of that must for rust. And I'm just going to wipe it along there and see if I can't get that flash rust to get off. And it usually just takes a few seconds. Now that the rust is already gone, that's how quick it works here, but underneath it I can see there's kind of like some light scratching in that metal. And I think that that's why the rust started there. Because kind of the surface of the metal, I think, was a little scratched, and after taking off all the oil and grease with the Crud Cutter degreaser, that's how quick, it's been about 10 minutes since I dried it, and that's how quick rust can form. I didn't see it anyplace else. I didn't see that at first, so it must have been hidden under some of these brackets. Now you can leave the residue of that rust remover on there, and it says on the instructions that that'll act as a rust inhibitor for up to a year. Of course, I'm going to end up putting a little bit of oil on everything up here now that I have the gears greased, but that's how easy it is to remove rust with that product. So let's see, am I backed all the way out here? Yeah. Okay. So like I said, you would want to grease the gears on the bottom the same way as you just saw me greasing these on the top. And if you have milky residue on anything, you'd want to wipe it off with a makeup remover and alcohol. This is the oil I use, Triflow Superior Lubricant. And it also has the PTFE. And you just have to shake it real good. This is a 6-ounce bottle, and I also buy it in 2-ounce bottle, and then I buy the 6-ounce to refill. I think my wife borrowed my 2-ounce bottle because I can't find it. But what I want to do is go use the owner's manual, and I want to first put some oil in all these bearings because they're going to be very dry. And what if moisture is still in there, even though I did my best to dry it? So where the owner's or instruction manual would say to put a drop or two in these bearings, right now I put 5 or 6 drops because, I washed out everything that was in there. And I might do that a couple times more as I'm putting parts back on the machine. So this is another spot. They recommend oiling in this one. So as I'm going back doing this now, where, I'm going to put a little bit more oil than they said to put because I really wiped out all the oil. And when putting the machine together and doing some tests running and stuff's moving, if oil starts leaking out, I can wipe that up. I can clean that up. Okay, I feel it's turning a lot easier right now, just getting some oil in that bearings, and now the gear has grease. Okay, and then I would do the same thing on the bottom, following the instructions. And definitely, you don't want to forget these little spots down here that go to the bearings, because you can't get to them from underneath. That's what these oil spots are for. And a couple drops right in the center of that hole in the hook shaft here, and like this one and this one. If you need an instruction manual, you can go to Singer's website, singerco.com, SINGERCO.com, and click on the support tab, open up a window, and then one of the selections is instruction manuals, and you click there, and it will go to a page with a box, and you would just put in, like this one, 503. You don't use any letters or anything, you just put 503 and enter that, and it'll take you to a page where you can download for free a PDF of the original instruction manuals. And it's got all the, it's got all the places that you oil and grease. So you see that I've doing the top end here. You would be doing the same kind of thing at the bottom. I've done this a few times in different videos on my website, like especially the 404, which is similar to this. My YouTube page. You can go there and you can look at some of those other restoration videos if you want a lot more detail than this. Now I'm just squeezing about 10 or 15 drops of the lubricant into a cup, and then I have another brush that's it's got softer, what's that called, bristles. Yeah, it's got softer bristles on it, and it's more of like a watercolor brush, and I use that for oil. And what I'll do is just put oil on there, and I'll start just brushing a light coat of oil on all of these metal parts that don't get grease. You don't want to put any oil where the grease goes. So I want to protect all this metal now. It makes it shiny and it looks nice, but it also is going to protect it from any rust and corrosion. We don't get a lot of rust here in Arizona. Obviously, we're in the desert. But I know people watching this may be living in climates a lot more humid, a lot more moist, and can easily get a lot of rust. So I'm putting this like on the can you see it even? Let's see if I get this down here. Like on that nice steel shafts here, on the end of the shafts and the outer bearing. You don't really need to put it on the aluminum here, like back in here, unless you just want to make it look pretty. But oil on the aluminum body or the painted body isn't really going to do anything for you. Just remember to keep the oil away from the grease, because you don't want it diluting that grease. So I'll go around here and put a nice light coating. And remember, I have a there you go. Get a nice light coating. And if I get a little extra oil on here right now, I'm not worried, because remember, I've stripped this thing down pretty good, and I got dozens of parts to put back on it. And once I get that all done, I'm going to have to oil some of those parts. But once it's all reassembled and oiled, I'll do like a final oiling of everything, and then I'll take a cloth and wipe out all the excess oil. So once you have everything done on the top, be sure and go down and coat all these parts, your hook and the holding bracket and the base of the hook and the lifting lever that holds the feed dogs, you know. And if you see my videos about cleaning the small parts, you will see that after I clean and dry them, I put a little coating of oil on everything. And that's, again, just to protect them, because you can easily wipe off excess oil when you're all finished working on your machine. See, that's why I put that light coating of cleaner wax on there, because I know I'm going to get oil, I'm going to be oiling parts and lifting the machine, I'm going to get fingerprints on stuff. So I put that first cleaner wax to clean off any crud cutter residue and protect the finish while I'm reassembling. So you see how these look so dry now? So you would look for rust. If you see rust, you'd want to remove it with whatever rust product. The first thing you would do would be to grease these gears, right? And then you would grease the gears over here for the hook. And once that was done, then you would go through and you would apply the oil at all the spots recommended in the manual. All the little spots for oil, right? And then just go ahead and brush on a light coat on all the shafts and rods and everything like that. So you will protect those from future rust and corrosion. But no oil on the gears, right? Okay, so I think you're definitely getting the idea of pre-treating it, washing it, drying it, putting grease on all the gears, oil in all the oil spots, and then a light coating of oil on all the shafts and rods and everything like that. And looking for any grease that might have been missed, and looking for any flash rust that shows up. So I'll be doing everything down here that I did on the top, but I was trying to make this a shorter video because I've done this a few times. But I think on the 337 you can see activity like this, the playlist for the model 337. I did over 50 videos on the model 404, which is similar to this without zigzag. And I do want to mention, if you don't want to take so many parts off like I did, you can do what I did today with the parts still on. I would remove or bag up any electrical stuff. I wouldn't want to get that all wet, you know, like the plug and the light fixture. And of course this one, the motor, is very easy to pull out the whole motor here. Speaking of that, so I'm not going to show you putting the motor in. So I've done that a few times on my YouTube channel. There we go, looking up there. Okay, so that's it. If you have questions or comments, please just put them on here. Subscribe if you like. And like I said, if you go to the home page of my YouTube channel, AndyTube, you'll see some playlists and other videos, and I go into a little bit more detail about reassembly and how to oil and grease and so forth. But that's it. Thank you so much. I hope that was interesting if you'd never watched anything like that before. And for returning visitors, you've probably seen me do this a few times, but A little refresher course won't hurt. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you will come back and visit AndyTube. Take care.